Also, you would find that if you do the important things first, you would have the energy and the time and the bandwidth to fit everything else in.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the reverse, you would find that that doesn't really work that way.
Welcome to Biz Help for You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Today, I'm chatting with Ori about business planning. By tuning in, you can learn how to simplify the process of creating your plan, conduct meaningful quarterly reviews, and maintain focus on key strategic goals that drive sustainable growth. So, Ori, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Candy. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad for you to be here too. And of course, this is an important topic for business owners, although lots of the time they, don't even think about planning. So I know this is going to be informative for them to understand why it's so important. But before I get into any of the questions I have on the topic, I'd love for you just to give a little bit of a bio on yourself so people get to know you a tiny bit.
Sure. So I like to call myself as a turnaround executive. I've been around small to medium-sized businesses throughout my career. I've actually never really been in a large company, so I don't really know what it's like. I've started my career actually in China, where I moved to Beijing, back in 2003. So that was a wonderful 6 years in China, and I had my first startup, sort of midway there. Then I transitioned back to Israel, and I had some time in the ad tech world, and went over to the publishing, and we acquired several kind of small publishers. And a lot of the things that I've kind of done is really around small teams that were either looking for or a different kind of direction, or needed something else, either by acquisitions or integrations or changes. So that's really been my entire kind of background. I now live in New Jersey. That's probably my third type of relocation. So that's a different subject in its own right, relocation, but that's like for a family. So, But glad to be here.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Well, like I said, we're going to be talking about these business planning opportunities. And a lot of times people think, well, I just need it when I'm going to get a loan, and they want a business plan. Right? And then they don't do it on a regular basis. So I would love for you first to just say, from your experience, like, why is a yearly business planning, time set aside specific for the strategic planning so important? Why is it so powerful? And why do many overlook its benefits?
Okay. So first of all, I don't want to overwhelm the audience on business planning, because it is overwhelming. It is frightening. It is what do I know, how to do and what to do. And it all gets overwhelming. So my approach to planning is really not the traditional approach to it. I'm not starting to dig into numbers and starting to put all sorts of complicated formulas, and I'm not doing a list of everything that happens. To me, business planning is a lot more about the alignment. It's about the focus, and it's about making sure that we are keeping what's important first. So we tend to just get into a chaos of day to day, like especially CEOs. And CEOs are like, I have to do this and I have to do this. And people are coming you with problems and keep distracting you from all different directions. I know myself as a constant kind of banging on my head about not doing enough. And I tend to, you get distracted very, very easily. So to me, business plan is your first time, is your time during the year that you stop for a second. Okay, let's just stop. Let's breathe. Let's look at what happened. What happened? Where do we stand? Like where am I? Like what do I want? Where does this business want? Where investors, employees, and so on? Where's the market? It's a time for you to reflect back on what happened. If you've done that several times, then that would be also the time for you to reflect on what you wanted to do and what actually kind of happened. And some of it will be, what did I plan on and what did I actually do? Some of it will actually be where I thought the market is and where the market is now. It's not all about you. A lot of there are different type of combination. So to me, it's an alignment about what do I want to do and where is my vision and what do I feel like doing? What can I feel myself committed to? Where is my strengths as a business? Who are my employees really is, and an honest kind of evaluation where we are, and also where the market. That has to be aligned. And many times we're just misaligned. Like we're going to do off of goals and all sorts of things that we think look good,
Right.
but I'm not sure that we are committed to it. Or do we want to work 24/7? Do we want to work 14 hours? Do we want to work less? Do we want to be like, there's a real question of not only what the business should go, but what are you willing to do to get there? And I think everything is okay, but this is the time to do the alignment. So I think this is the number one. This is critical. Okay, this is critical for you not to fall into the pitfall of just chaos.
Right. Well, a lot of times when people are thinking of this business plan too, they're thinking, I'm going to be looking at revenue. Where do I want, the revenue to go? What percentage of growth do I think I'm going to have? What do I need to do to get there? And they're focused really on the revenue side of things. And I know you just touched on, it's not just about you. There's, external things to think about. There's employees or investors to look at too. But are there other specific elements in this planning that people really should be including?
Yeah, so I really love various kind of things and phases that you do. First of all, and this is just me, I like to call a name. Like, so I'd like to say, what is this year means to me? Like, what do I want this year to be? I also give a headline and a name to the year before. What was this year for me? Because it sort of represents it. And then in terms of what happened. So it's about what this year, what is important for that year. Then I go to the priorities. Okay, there has to be like 2 to 3 priorities. They're like, what are the priorities? Now, priorities are not, it's not a laundry list, it's a priority. For example, there is a priority of getting into a new market. Or maybe there is a priority of just sorting out my sales. Or maybe there is a priority of hiring a salesperson. Okay, maybe there are some priorities that are really important for us to keep as a top level. Okay, you can't have 10 priorities. This is like what the priorities of the company. Okay, and then you go into the goals. Okay, goals are like, they're obviously going to be revenue goals, and maybe there's going to be profit, and maybe there's like going to be a couple of others. There's going to be a goals of increasing whatever client base by 30%, or what? Let's do it easier. There's a goal of just getting one big client, okay, or getting 130K or whatever, 50K, 100K, goal of that. Or maybe there is a goal of opening the office, or maybe there's a goal of launching the website. There's all sorts of goals that are you have, and you say this is what needs, a goal, and then it's like what needs to happen for those goals to do. Okay, it's a little bit of a structure like that. What needs to happen? Because you need to be able to see how this is going to happen. I don't want you to just throw things out there. I want you to really visualize them. You can stretch goal. It's okay. All right. It's also about your comfort level. That it is also important that the goals and the path are supposed to give us a yellow brick road ahead. Right? Not supposed to be, oh, if you haven't achieved them, you're bad. Or if you have, you're great. It has nothing to do with it. It's just, what is your next step? Where are you going? What is your next step? So that's supposed to just give you a map. Okay, here's where I'm heading. It's supposed to give you also, this is what then is important, and this is noise. Okay, as CEOs, it's an interesting thing. I had a conversation with someone, and it's so critical to be able to differentiate what is important for you and what should take your focus and what is just noise. Now, clearly, you are responsible for everything. Clearly, everything, the buck stops with you, all the various narrative that we want to say, they're all true. but are you the one that needs to be able to do all of it? Are you the one that needs to solve everything?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to stand up to something and was like, I just can't deal with it. You do, or this is important for me, and this is simply not. This is noise.
Mm-hmm.
And I would also really recommend, this is a little bit of outside of it, but when you have important things to do, those need to be the stuff that you do first.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the analogy of the stones, right? Inside of where you throw in the big stones first.
Mm-hmm.
People understand the analogy, but I find that if you think about it, most people do not operate like that. They don't operate as the big stones first. They don't prioritize what they consider was as big stones first. And then they go and complain that they don't have time to do it. Of course, they don't have time to do it because they don't treat it as a big stone.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to decide, is this a big stone or is it a small stone? It's a little bit like that. Also, you would find that if you do the important things first, you would have the energy and the time and the bandwidth to fit everything else in.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the reverse, you would find that doesn't really work that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, if someone is listening and says, okay, I'm either going to create a plan or, well, I have done one, but, I don't look at it all that often. I do it at the end of December, beginning of January, and then at the end of the year, I look at it again to see, did I accomplish my goals? So how long should people wait before they're looking back at it, or should they look every week, every month, every quarter? Like, how often do you recommend that they're looking at what their plan really entailed and how they're doing in regards to what their plans were?
All right. So first of all, if someone is doing a plan for the year and looking at the year after, I almost guarantee you that 50%, if not 90% of what they wrote there has either haven't been touched or have not been done. Like, I almost guarantee that. Because if that is the case, then it's great to do it, at least that. But you would really find out that almost 50, again, most of those things you probably haven't touched. Okay, that's just human nature. You would go back to your day-to-day. So I recommend, this is a yellow brick road. By yellow brick road, this is what leads you. This is what it should be in your conscious all the time. Now, the way that I recommend to do it is to have, I have a framework to be able to do it. I like simplicity. I don't like complicated. Okay, so I do it as a year. I have the priorities and goals and what needs to happen for the year. Then it comes Q1, I go and do the part for the Q1. I was like, all right, like, if I want this, then what does that mean for Q1? Then I'm doing the Q1. All right, there's going to be a priorities and goals and so on for this quarter. At the end of the quarter, I will do, again, you can call it the QBR, but let's not go, who cares? You're gonna stop for a second and look at the quarter and look at where it was, and then do the same for the quarter two, like for the quarter three. Now, to be able to make sure that in the quarter you're doing it, I also recommend, if you're doing management calls or if you're doing something, your management calls or team calls or whatever it is should follow that. Okay, that means those priorities and objectives, should be in the background to it. Because otherwise, what are you really talking about if you're not talking about the things that matter? This to me, this is what drives every single part of the conversation. And it guarantees that you at least don't forget. Okay, so it doesn't just end up in this, I don't know, something that we wrote on the wall and suddenly, it's like that person that put a ribbon on his head. That was Alf. I put a ribbon on his head and said, oh, I forgot I did all of that. So don't forget, just keep remembering, keep it in the front of everything that you do. And if you want to change, then change. That's totally fine. Don't be upset. Don't try to bring yourself down. It's okay to change. It's okay to modify. But once you keep it in front of your eyes, then I guarantee you won't forget. And as time goes, it will become more of a habit. You'll be better at it. You'll be more realistic about it. You'll have a way to track it better or enforce it better or feel about it better, however way, works for you.
So if someone is listening and says, well, I understand the concept of the larger stones and I should be focused on that and that should, take priority. But obviously sometimes things happen in the business or there's emergencies, your key person has to leave, they move away, whatever, and things change. And then you can't always focus on that. So how do you keep your business going on a day-to-day basis, yet still try to meet those strategic goals that you have set for yourself when those challenges arise?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My gut tells me that you should be able to plan ahead, knowing that things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that things happen shouldn't throw you off.
Mm-hmm.
That means, yes, it's okay, breathe. You don't have to jump into, like, really, we don't want us to, don't we always feel like we keep on putting fires out? Like, let's stop doing this. Let's stop to just jump to every emergency that happens, everything that throws us off. We just can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
I know that things happen, but at the end of the day, especially as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as an owner of a business, you just can't afford it. Things will always happen. So you need to be in a place where you are, it's not like you are not allowed to deal with things that come up. Yeah, deal with stuff that come up, but you can't let it manage you. You can't be managed by the day-to-day, if I make sense. You got to be able to manage your day-to-day. You can't allow it to manage you. So these are pitfalls. This is the chaos that we have to constantly kind of keep. That's why we're reminding ourselves, here's the road. This is what it looks like. This is what we said. This is what we said it was important. Is it still important? If the answer is yes, then we continue. If it's not important, then it's okay. Let's stop and let's see why it's not important. I guarantee it's not the crisis that happened. That's not going to change that.
Well, I know you were talking about just, in that last question when I asked, you kind of need to plan ahead and know that things are going to happen. So do you recommend having like SWOT analysis included in the business, planning session, or like what do they do to maybe even think about what are some of those challenges that could lay ahead so they could have at least, well, here's my plan, but if something happens, here's like an alternate plan.
Yeah. So I've been in the digital publishing world, ad tech and advertising for many, many years. And that is constantly changing. And any idea, thought, hope that you can actually predict what will happen is a futile kind of exercise, meaning and I think today it's even worse, like AI, anything like that. There's absolutely no way that you can predict what will lie ahead. So I don't recommend of trying to forecast the future. I barely forecast the weather. Like if you look at the weather app, I don't even know if you believe it because every day changes. So
right.
Let alone a business. I really do not recommend that we go into that. As for SWOT, again, I don't like sticking to buzzwords. So to me, SWOT is basically the translation of how well do you know your business and that. And I'm 100% sure that every business owners know exceptionally well their own business and market. Like they know it. They know inside of it. They live it. They know it best. So that's why that one time that you sit for a second every year and you kind of look back, you can be a pretty good judge of it. Now, I don't recommend doing it alone. And that's something that I recommend not to do it. If you have key members with your team, I strongly recommend doing that. I don't recommend doing it in a committee of like 20 people. That's also a disaster.
Right. You won't accomplish anything.
It's just either you'll have 19 people silenced or you'll have chaos, right? So 4 or 5 kind of people, that's great. If you have someone that you can recommend that has an external view, I highly recommend that because we're just blind to our own, we're just blind, we just can't see it. Sometimes it's all about, someone from outside just shining a light of something. And then it's like, yeah, everybody sees it by you, right? So it's about getting perspectives.
Well, when you were even saying you could have a group of, maybe 4 or 5 or a key person,
Hmm.
I was actually thinking the same thing. Like sometimes, the entrepreneur, they're like the sole person, or maybe they have some employees that help, but maybe they don't feel comfortable talking with them. So what about having maybe a business mentor or someone in the industry who can help you think through some of the things, or, just an outsource, even going to like SCORE or something, right? Where maybe they can help you. I think that would
Yeah.
be ideal as well, too, because we don't always know what we don't know. And if we've not done this, or maybe we haven't been as great at putting together these plans as maybe we, need to be, having that outside help does come in handy.
Yeah. So I will tell a few things. Okay. First of all, about the team, like I did have and work with someone as an entrepreneur and as a CEO that he would do it, the plans, but he would do it all by himself,
Hmm.
and when I asked him to bring other people in, he kind of refused to do it. And I think this is just a mistake. I think not only you're missing perspective and valuable perspective of others, you're also alienating people around you from the plan. And then
Hmm.
you're like inventing your own plan, and then you're thinking that everyone should be able to follow it. And what ends up happening is everybody sees this is your plan, this is what you did, and and yeah, you want me to do it, but I will or I will not, or it depends on
Hmm.
my mood. But it's very much an alienating thing, and you're missing perspectives. Okay,
Hmm.
that's one thing. I don't like the idea of just doing it in my own head.
Hmm.
That's a bad habit. And as for outside, yeah, I think whatever works, from someone to get that perspective. Again, a CEO and an entrepreneur is a very lonely kind of
Hmm.
job, um, and you're just inside your head so much. So
Hmm.
if you find a way to get yourself outside of your head, somebody that helps relieve that co-pilot. Co-pilot
Hmm.
doesn't mean someone that go and manages a company with you, but it means someone that you can vent, someone that you can bounce ideas with, someone that you can, I don't know, like vent up and vent down also. Someone that doesn't really even it doesn't have an agenda. That's also
Hmm.
nice. Like everybody has an agenda around you, and sometimes it's maddening, right? So I think that's very helpful. And whether it's a friend or a spouse, or
Hmm.
if that's possible, or someone will go to business, people that they can trust, that's also great.
So in this plan, obviously they're setting goals, but sometimes
Mhm.
the goals might be a little vague and they don't even necessarily know when they have met them or achieved them. Or, like I said, maybe they're just too easy, to accomplish because they're not really pushing themselves. So can you give any, tips on how to actually define clear objectives that are going to help them meet those goals, and they're not so vague that they don't even know if they're doing well or not?
Yeah. So I distinguish between priorities,
Hmm.
right, and goals. All
Hmm.
right, or you can also call them objectives and goals, right? The priorities are sort of things that what areas that I should focus on. Okay, those can be vague. It's not about vague, but those are like general kind of directions that we're going for. Now, goals have to be specific,
Hmm.
and honestly, I think at the beginning, it's okay. It's not that I have any specific way to avoid being vague. Like you can't have vague goals if you don't know if you have accomplished them. If you try to say, all right, like how would I know that I accomplished it? And if the answer is I don't know, then this is not a goal. Then you need to
Hmm.
rethink it.
Hmm.
And sometimes those are not easy. And sometimes we are afraid of putting those goals, because what will happen if we don't meet them? Like, what
Hmm.
would they say about us? What is it going to say about the company? Well, basically, what is it going to say about me? And it's tricky. The goals are not there to make you look good or make you look bad. They're not supposed to
Hmm.
make you happy or sad. That's really not the objective. A goal is simply a way you have a direction. Which is the direction am I going? That's
Hmm.
as simple as that. Like Google Maps. If you go to a restaurant, it gives you a pinpoint. This is the restaurant. This is where I'm going. The objective
Right.
is to go and to that restaurant. If Google would give you a proximate area, like How would you get to the restaurant? So it's
Mhm.
and when you got to the restaurant, does Google goes up and down cheerfully applying, yay, I got you to your goal? No, it just got you there. And it's not it and I know it's a weird analogy, but it's sometimes works.
Mhm.
I think that our problem with goals is probably the number one goal problem is we're afraid of setting them
Mhm.
because of what it would mean for us. So we're, yeah, let's just go do something objectives that everybody will be happy, that our employee will be
Mhm.
happy. All right. Like, or I don't know, like some sort of a random kind of thing. The
Mhm.
idea is to be something specific and don't have too many of them. This is not a laundry list. This is not, we're not going to the supermarket. You're not trying to buy meat and vegetables and so on. It doesn't have to be a long list of things. These are,
Mhm.
hell, 3, 4, goals. That's it.
Mhm. Perfect. Well, I do know we are coming to the end of the time we have together today. So I wanted to ask if you have an offer that you would like to share with our listeners, and if they want more information or they want to connect with you, how do they do so?
Sure. So I'm actually launching. It's interesting. I'm launching a pilot of I call it the 90-day business reboot, and it goes to exactly that, both in terms of the planning, but also to find the skeletons in the room, or to deal with the chaos, or to just stop for a second and do a 90-day kind of reboot of where things are and where things stand, and planning is definitely a part of it. So that is something that I'm very excited about. It's about me being all there for that CEO, for that entrepreneur and business owner, all in. I'm very much an all in kind of person and hands on. So that's something that I'm very excited about and I'm happy to share. And probably the best is reach me on the LinkedIn. There's only one other person. No, there's only me with that last name. So it's very easy to find. So you can find me through there, or you can even send me an email to oelraviv@gmail.com. So that's going to be very easy.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Ori, for being a guest on my show and sharing your wisdom on this topic. I'm sure listeners will have found some great tips that they can implement also. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Candy.
And to the listener, if you enjoyed today's topic and you want to hear additional information, you can find access to exclusive content in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.